In 1701, a king declared war because of a chair. Not a country, not a border, a chair. The chair was ordinary, wooden, perhaps slightly uncomfortable. Yet the king saw it as a personal insult. He vowed revenge. Troops were mobilized, cannons loaded, and advisors panicked. Entire nations braced for battle over a piece of furniture. It only gets worse from here. The year was 1701. Europe was tense, alliances shifting, and rulers eager to prove their power. Our king was proud, stubborn, and easily offended. His court whispered constantly, fearful of angering him. The chair sat in a neighboring palace, allegedly taken, moved, or claimed. Its fate became a national insult. Diplomats tried reasoning. "It is just a chair," they said. He refused to listen. Pride outweighed sense. Soldiers were mustered, cannons polished, flags raised. War was prepared against an object, and indirectly, another country. Maps were studied carefully, strategies drawn. Every general knew the plan was foolish, but no one dared object. Advisors drafted letters, hoping diplomacy would resolve the dispute. They were ignored or destroyed. Local townspeople murmured in disbelief. Rumors spread, a war over furniture. Children laughed. Adults feared embarrassment. Couriers rushed to neighboring capitals with proclamations of battle. The chair had become a symbol of honor. Historians later called this the peak of absurdity, a king letting a minor slight spark an international conflict. And so, armies lined up, prepared to fight, all over a simple wooden chair. History was watching, amused, and horrified. The king believed that taking action immediately would restore his honor. A bold plan was drafted: attack the neighboring territory. He imagined troops storming the palace, seizing the chair, and returning victorious. Everyone else imagined chaos. Advisors suggested diplomacy, perhaps a gift or negotiation. He dismissed them. "No one questions a king's pride," he said. Maps were examined. Routes for soldiers, supply lines, and cannon positions were drawn with extreme care. Every detail mattered, except reason. Troops were given marching orders. Flags waved. Drums rolled. Soldiers practiced maneuvers. The plan looked impressive on paper. The king studied the chair's location. He believed knowing its exact position would make the battle easier. Supply wagons were loaded with weapons, food, and extra chairs, just in case. Everyone wondered why. Generals muttered privately, "This is madness." No one spoke loudly. Disobedience was dangerous in the royal court. The king imagined victory speeches, parades, and medals. The chair would be returned to him, and his honor restored. Soldiers practiced entering rooms and halls as if they were storming castles. They were unaware the enemy might simply refuse battle. The army's morale was strangely high. Perhaps excitement, perhaps fear, carried them forward. Pride disguised logic. Orders were given to move out at dawn. Everyone followed, convinced this chair was worth more than gold. And so, the war began. Troops advanced with confidence, completely unaware that the object of the conflict could not fight back. The first warning was obvious. Scouts reported the palace had minimal defenses. The chair remained undisturbed. Supplies got stuck in muddy roads. Horses slipped. Soldiers complained about carrying unnecessary equipment. Advisors whispered warnings. "The enemy may not even notice us," they said. He ignored them. Townspeople laughed at the troop movements. Children pointed at the soldiers marching seriously toward a chair. Some soldiers tripped over their own feet. Pride pushed them onward anyway. The king inspected maps personally. He believed that careful planning could turn absurdity into victory. The neighboring ruler sent diplomats, asking for clarification. Messages were intercepted, dismissed, or mocked. Cannons were tested. They fired harmlessly into fields. Troops cheered. The chair did not respond. Morale faltered slightly. Soldiers began questioning, Are we really fighting over a chair? Some wagons broke under the weight of weapons. Horses bolted. Chaos grew. Couriers got lost delivering orders. Some generals improvised, creating more confusion. The king reassured everyone, "This chair insulted me. We must win." Soldiers nodded, uncertain but obedient. The palace remained calm. The enemy was confused. No one attacked. Yet the army marched closer. Every step forward revealed that reason was absent. History was trying to warn them, but no one stopped the king. Troops arrived near the neighboring palace. Cannons were ready. Soldiers lined up as if facing a grand army. The king demanded an immediate assault. No one questioned him. Pride and fear carried obedience forward. Scouts reported the palace gates were open. The chair sat quietly inside, untouched. Soldiers whispered nervously. The king insisted on storming the rooms. Orders were shouted. Soldiers tripped over rugs, tapestries, and each other. Horses bolted through narrow hallways. Wagons crashed into walls. Smoke from misfired cannons filled the air. Soldiers marched into the main hall. Chairs, tables, and chandeliers blocked their way. The battle became chaotic comedy. The king demanded the chair be seized. Soldiers reached it and lifted it triumphantly, only to realize it was heavier than expected. Muscles strained. Soldiers stumbled backward. The chair wobbled dangerously. Advisors screamed for caution. The king ignored them. Nearby villagers peeked through windows, laughing quietly. Children cheered. Even some enemy guards shook their heads in disbelief. One soldier accidentally broke a window. Glass shattered. Another tripped and fell, knocking over a table. Chaos spread rapidly. Cannons intended to intimidate misfired indoors. Smoke and small explosions added theatrical drama to the absurd scene. The king grew frustrated. Victory seemed delayed. He waved his sword, shouting orders with increasing desperation. Soldiers tried to form ranks again. Mud, broken furniture, and trapped horses made coordination impossible. The enemy finally reacted, slowly and cautiously. They did not attack, but they laughed from the shadows, watching the absurd spectacle. The chair finally tipped over. Soldiers struggled to lift it upright. The king demanded persistence. Obedience overrode logic. Smoke, chaos, and confusion enveloped the palace halls. The war over a chair had reached peak absurdity. Rumors spread. Neighboring towns watched the spectacle, betting on how long it would take the king to give up. The tension was unbearable. Would the chair finally be conquered, or would human folly collapse under its own weight? The cliffhanger looms. By nightfall, the palace was wrecked. Broken furniture, overturned wagons, and exhausted soldiers littered every room. The chair remained upright, calm, and indifferent. Victory had not been claimed. The king's pride hung in tatters. Soldiers were muddy, bruised, and exhausted. Many quietly admitted defeat, but publicly cheered out of fear. Horses were missing or spooked. Cannons were jammed. Messengers ran frantically through hallways trying to restore order. The king demanded continued efforts. He refused to accept that a chair could resist him. Advisors begged for retreat. "We can negotiate," they said. He dismissed them as cowards. Nearby villagers celebrated quietly. Some mocked openly. Songs about the Great Chair War began to circulate. The enemy palace did not retaliate. They had survived without lifting a finger. The absurdity was complete. Reports were filed. Soldiers tried to explain the chaos diplomatically. Each report grew more ridiculous than the last. The king attempted to justify the campaign as a test of bravery. Few were convinced. Soldiers returned home bruised, muddy, and embarrassed. Families laughed at the story for decades. The chair remained in the palace. It had won the war without moving an inch. Historians later called this event one of the most absurd conflicts in recorded history. The king's reputation survived, though tinged with ridicule. Pride had driven disaster over a simple piece of furniture. The palace and battlefield were left in chaos. Only human folly remained as evidence of the war. The absurdity of this conflict became a legend, showing that even kings can wage pointless wars for trivial reasons. News of the chair war spread quickly. Neighboring nations laughed, diplomats shook their heads, and poets wrote satirical verses. The king tried to defend his actions. It was a matter of honor, he claimed. Few believed him. Soldiers returned home exhausted, muddy, and ridiculed. Families mocked them, and children asked endless questions about the chair battle. The enemy remained calm. Their palace was intact. The chair sat proudly, unbothered by human pride. Military officials debated consequences. Some argued for punishment. Pride and protocol protected the king from serious reproach. Field reports were carefully edited, trying to justify the absurd campaign. Historians later called it a cautionary tale of folly. Townspeople created plays and songs mocking the war. The chair became a symbol of ridiculous overreaction. Merchants sold miniature chair replicas to celebrate surviving the conflict. Even children played mock battles in the streets. The king attempted to maintain dignity, insisting he had shown strength. Public opinion was less impressed. Advisors quietly noted that the war had accomplished nothing but humiliation. The lesson was clear, but ignored. And so, history remembered the chair, the king, and the absurd lengths humans will go to protect pride. Why did this happen? Pride, stubbornness, and the need to defend honor drove men and armies to absurd extremes. Even clear warnings and logic were ignored. Ego trumped reason completely. Human psychology often repeats itself. People pursue battles that serve pride rather than purpose. Obedience, fear, and loyalty can amplify foolish decisions. Soldiers followed orders despite obvious absurdity. Leaders sometimes confuse novelty or insult with strategic necessity. Courage becomes foolishness in the wrong context. The chair war shows that even small disputes can escalate if pride goes unchecked. Historians laugh, but similar mistakes repeat in new forms across centuries. Ego remains timeless. Stubbornness blinds judgment. Pride turns nonsense into necessary action. Reality is optional. Absurdity teaches a lesson. Human logic is fragile when emotion dominates reason. History whispers, yet we often march blindly into avoidable chaos. What if we recognized our own chair wars before taking action? Could we prevent disaster? Perhaps the real question is not whether we fight, but how often we wage unnecessary wars over trivial slights.